اسمعوا يا سميع مدحتي، وأجبوا يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقلوا يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره، وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه، ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، ما حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك عن قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي. عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي، أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك، وأريتني من قدرتك، وعرفتني من إجابتك، وصرت أدعوك آمنا، وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي، لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلما رأى مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك. كأن لي التطول عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل، وجد علي بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك، مجري الفلك، مسخر الرياح، فالق الأصباح، ديان الدين، رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طولاناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق، باسط الرزق، فالق الإصباح، ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى، وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله، ولا شبيه يشاكله، ولا ظهير يعاضده. قهر بعزته الأعزاء، وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني. وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، وأثني عليه حامدا، وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه، ولا يغلق بابه، ولا يرد سائله، ولا يخيب عامله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين، وينجي الصالحين، ويرفع المستضعفين، ويضع المستكبرين، ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين، مغير الظالمين، مدرك الهاربين، نكال الظالمين، صريخ المستصرخين، موضع حاجات الطالبين، معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها، وترجف الأرض وعمارها، وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا، وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق، ويرزق ولا يرزق، ويطعم ولا يطعم، ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى، وهو حي لا يموت، بيده الخير، وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك، وخيرتك من خلقك، وحافظ سرك، ومبلغ رسالاتك، أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت من وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين، ووصي رسول رب العالمين، عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك، وحجتك على خلقك، وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء، سيدتي نساء العالمين. وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين، سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين، علي بن الحسين، ومحمد بن علي، وجعفر بن محمد، وموسى بن جعفر، وعلي بن موسى، ومحمد بن علي، وعلي بن محمد، والحسن بن علي، والخلف الهادي المهدي. حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك، صلاة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر، وحفه بملائكتك المقربين، وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك، استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له، ابدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وأعزز به، وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا، واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم اظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك، حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق ما خافت أحدا من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة، تعز بها الإسلام وأهله، وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملناه، وما قصرنا عنه فبلغناه. اللهم ألمم به شعثنا، واشعب به صدعنا، وارتق به فتقنا، وكثر به قلتنا، وعزز به ذلتنا، واغني به عائلنا، واقضي به عن مغرمنا، واجبر به فقرنا، وسد به خلتنا، ويسر به عسرنا، وبيض به وجوهنا، وفك به أسرنا، وانجح به طلبتنا، وانجز به مواعيدنا، واستجب به دعوتنا، واعطنا به سؤلنا، وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا، واعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشفي به صدورنا، وثبني غيظ قلوبنا، واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك، إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. انصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق، آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله، غيبة ولينا، وكثرة عدونا، وقلة عددنا، وشدة الفتن بنا، وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآل محمد، وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله، وبضر تكشف، وبنصر تعزه، وسلطان حق تظهر، ورحمة منك تجللناها، وعافية منك تلبسناها، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajum. Jazakallah, brother. Thank you so much for the very beautiful recitation. Now, before we move on to our lecture, I just want to summarize the lecture Agha said yesterday on this topic, reflections and lessons in the Holy Quran. So the Agha said that he's going to give a verse for everyone, for all the youths to learn each day. And yesterday's verse was from Surah Muhammad, chapter 47, verse 24. And its translation is, do they not contemplate the Quran, or are there locks on your heart? And the next point that I thought was quite important was there are many ways to interact with the Quran. The most basic way is opening the Quran and looking at it. Then the next step is reciting the Quran. The next step is understanding the Quran. And the final way we can interact with the Quran is incorporating the understandings of the Quran in our life. I would like to I'd like everyone to recite Surah Fatiha once and Surah Ikhlas 3 times for the marhumin and marhumat of today's sponsors, Sayyida Adham Sultan Naqvi. For Muhammad wa Muhammad Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad wa Jafar.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد والثناء لله رب العالمين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما سيدي ومولاي بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لهم فداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you again, Daniel, for the summary and reminding everyone about the verse. Inshallah, we'll start today with a short explanation of what we would like to talk about, and inshallah we'll get to the verse as well. So alhamdulillah, the first day of the holy month is done. We're in the second day now. May Allah inshallah accept all your ta'at, all the efforts that you made, your fasting from the first day and from the second day. May He inshallah give us the tawfiq to be able to benefit from these days. What happens sometimes is that these days go by so quickly that it's happened so many times. I don't know if it's happened, if you brothers and sisters have experienced this or not, but it happens that, you know, when Rajab was coming, when the holy month of Rajab was coming, and people were talking about how the month of Rajab and Sha'ban and Shahr Ramadan, these are the months which are known as the spring, or the time that the people who seek Allah, the people who are trying to pursue this journey towards Allah, that this is the best of the times. And some of us might have planned things that, you know, this, inshallah, this is the year that I will benefit from. And before you know it, 2/3 of that time period is already gone. So the month of Rajab is gone, the month of Sha'ban is gone. It's not a bad idea for me to stand here now and think about, did I benefit from those 2 months how I should have? And as some scholars talk about the holy month of Ramadan, they say that the month of Sha'ban is almost like a stepping stone. It's for us to be able to prepare ourselves to be able to enter the month of Sha'ban. And the month of Sha'ban is a stepping stone for us to be able to enter the holy month of Ramadan. So have I done that preparation or not? That's one thing for us to be able to self-reflect and see if I am taking those steps or not. Similarly, within the holy month, if we do not take every single day and are not able to do muhasibah, as they call it, or sort of a self-assessment of, am I moving in the direction that I wanted to move in? Have I started to move in the direction? Do I have a plan to move in the direction that I would like to move in? And if I, sorry, Daniel, is my voice really low still?
Fine for me, Aga.
It's okay for you? Okay. I'm going to try to speak up, but hopefully, okay, there you go. But you know, in and of itself, Shahr Ramadan, the voices do become a little lower, right? Because everyone's tired, fasting. But alhamdulillah, inshallah, I'll try to speak up a little bit. So it's really important for us to be able to do that self-assessment. There's riwayat from the Ma'sumin, there's tradition, ahadith from the Ma'sumin, where they say, Laysa minna. Laysa minna. That person is not of us. Don't call yourself a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. Don't call yourself a follower of the Ahlul Bayt. And then the hadith continues that they're not of us. Anyone who does not self-assess, does not assess themselves on a daily basis, every single day. And there's another famous saying that a lot of scholars reference is mutu qabla an tamutu, that die before you die. Mutu qabla an tamutu. And some people have explained it in the way in the sense that before your time of death comes, before that time of assessment by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the angels come, before that, assess yourself. Before that time comes when a person dies and they're forced to detach from this world, detach yourself from the world ahead of time, right? So these are concepts that are talked about in our ideology, in our tradition, in the Quran. So it's extremely important that on a daily basis we see where we're going, and if we're able to make the progress, because before we know it, 10 days will be gone. Before we know it, it'll be the Laylatul Qadr. And these are the 20 nights. If I wasn't able to benefit from Rajab, wasn't able to benefit from Sha'ban the way I should have, then at least now I need to start getting more serious. And inshallah, the hope that I have in having these talks is to be able to give myself, first and foremost, and others, reminders that can help in being able to improve ourselves. So the first lesson that we learned, the practical lesson that we learned from the first day, was that the Quran is not only supposed to be read, but also supposed to be contemplated upon. And you know, sometimes there is this tradition in our communities, and which is a really, really good tradition of trying to finish the Quran within the holy month. It's really good because there's no better thing. I wouldn't say no better thing, but one of the best things that one can do in Shahr Ramadan is read the Quran. Is read the Quran. But if me reading one part of the Quran, one juz of the Quran, one sipara of the Quran, whatever you call it, if that doesn't leave me enough time to be able to sit down, to be able to think about the Quran, then there needs to be some sort of fine-tuning over there. Because the importance of recitations is immense, but the importance of the contemplation on the recitation is, it's almost like if the recitation is mustahab, the contemplation is wajib, right? So it's that important. So that was practical lesson number one from the first day. Moving on to the second day. When we talk about the Quran, we know that it's a book that was sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know it's a book that was sent through the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anything that is in the Quran, anything that is beyond the Quran, anything that has existence, starts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you've read this in du'as, where it says He's the awwal and He's the akhir, He's the start of everything, He's the end of everything. He was there before anything existed. He will remain until after everything ceases to exist. So He is the only constant in this existence. He is the only independent entity in this existence. Everything else is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else. So for us to be able to understand, it's kind of like if you read a novel, if you read a book, if you watch a movie, right, any of these things, there are themes in books, there are themes in movies, there are themes in video games. There's very often, more often than not, the writer of the book, the director of the movie, the creator of the game, they have some sort of ideology that they want to get across to you. Sometimes it's in such a subtle way that we ourselves don't realize. The point is that these ideologies, these subtle points, these inclinations, these are all a reflection of what that writer of the book, or what that director of the movie, or what that creator of the game has in their mind, and what their agenda is. Similarly, for us to be able to understand what exactly the Quran is meaning, why is the Quran saying these things? A good place to start, a necessary place to start, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why when we look at the usul, right, we talk about the usul al-din, how we have the 5 usul al-din, and that we talk about, like, in the usul al-din, which are supposed to be right? We talk about how there's no taqlid in usuluddin. What that means is every single one of us should be able to some extent rationally be able to understand those things, correct? So be able to rationalize the existence of this being that we call God, rationalize the attributes of this entity that we call God. So that is where all of our understanding needs to start from. Otherwise, we won't be able to put these things in sync. Why is the Quran saying? Why did the Prophet say this? It all roots from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for us to be able to answer all our questions, for us to be able to have a foundational understanding, and for us to not be able to, tremble on the path, if you will, right? Not be hesitant on this path, if you will. For us not to be hesitant, we need to have that strong foundation, and that strong foundation can come only and only if it's based on a proper understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He's wise, right? He's the all-wise. The Quran talks about it. He's the Hakim, right? Several places in the Quran, it talks about that this Allah, this creator of the world is Hakim. What do we mean by Hakim? What do we mean by He's wise? A lot of times in our understanding, in our simple understanding, wise, when you say someone's a wise person, it again means some of the things that we talked about yesterday. This is a person that, that they're really, really good at studies, that they're really smart, that they read books really well, that they, understand things maybe sometimes at a deeper level. This is what. When we talk about the wisdom in the Quranic context, or in the context of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the things that it implicates, one of the consequences of wisdom is that whatever they do it with a reason. So it might not be like someone like me might not be considered wise from the perspective of sometimes I don't know, have Coke, sometimes I have Pepsi, or sometimes I might have these soft drinks. What is the reason? Do I have a good enough reason to be able to do that? I almost can't justify it other than that I would like to, that I'm used to it, or I would like to drink that, right? So that is not a complete reflection of wisdom. Wisdom in the context of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the all-wise, the most perfect of the wise, is that everything He does is for a reason. Nothing is without a reason. One of the things that He did was send this Quran down to us. Cannot be without a purpose. One of the things He did was create us. Cannot be without a purpose. For me to be able to figure out what my purpose is, if I've lived 10 years of my life, 20 years of my life, 30, 40, 50, 70 years of my life, but I never referred to the Quran to seek why exactly is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created me? What exactly is it that He wants from me? Right? This leaves me in a puzzle. Why? Because He is the one who created me. He is the one who's going to tell me why He created me. I'm limited in my understanding. He is the most knowledgeable. He is the most wise. So I need to refer to this book of guidance. And when we refer to this book in Surah Dhariyat, which is chapter 51, let me type this out as well. Chapter 51, verse 56. Okay, and this is verse number 2 for us. Verse number 2 of our, whoever is inshallah taking part in their memorization activity. So this is verse number 2. Now verse number 1, Daniel mentioned, this is verse number 2, Surah Dhariyat, chapter 51, verse 56, and it's a verse that a lot of you have heard before. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the jinn or the ins, the jinn or the human being, except for them to worship me. Except for them to worship me. Okay? What that means is the reason I was created, the reason not just I was created just the initial existence. After I started existing, does everyone who exists have eyes? No. Does everyone who exists have ears? No. Does everyone who exists have the ability to be able to walk? No. Does everyone who exists have the ability to be able to think? No. Does everyone who exists has a roof over their head? No. Does everyone who exists have food to eat? No. And so on and so forth. You get the idea. So everything that he's given me specifically or in general, all of us in general, the only purpose he's given us that is لِيَعْبُدُونَ. لِيَعْبُدُونَ. What that means is everything that I have, the purpose for that is for me to use it in the form, in the way of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is, if I've been given the eyes and I don't use the eyes to read the Quran on a daily basis, I don't use the Quran, use the eyes to read Islamic books, I don't use my eyes to be able to see the beauty of Allah in His creation, I don't use my eyes, and so on and so forth. Rather, I use my eyes, I don't know, to watch things that I shouldn't be watching. Is this someone who's fulfilling their purpose? Are these a set of eyes that are fulfilling their purpose? Do we not have traditions that talk about that various parts of our body are going to bear witness against us on the Day of Judgment? That the eyes will say that these, yes, we were used in, not in the way of Allah, but in the way of movies, for example. In the way of I don't know what else. In the way of I don't know what else. So a mu'min, a person who is wanting to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's wanting to make an effort to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understands this verse, memorizes this verse, knows that this verse exists, and then contemplates this verse, then assesses themselves based on this verse. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That this all-wise creator of ours, that the only reason he created you and I is so we can worship him. So the most important thing for us to realize is that this creation is not in vain. Because he is the all-wise. There is no way that the all-wise would create something without a purpose. In Surah Ankabut, I'm sorry, I didn't pull the Surah Ankabut. Let me get the exact verse number. So it's Surah number 29, verse number 2. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فلا يعلمن الذين صدقوا ولا يعلمن الكاذبين. Right over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that do the people really think that they'll be left? أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا, that they just say we believe in God. Is that enough? Is that good enough? To say that I believe in Imam Hussein, is that good enough? To say that I love Imam Hussein, is that good enough? Allah in the Quran is saying, forget Imam Hussein. Even for Allah, if you say that, it's not good enough. Even for Allah, if you say that, it's not good enough. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ. So it's Surah number 29, verse number 2. أَحَسِبَ النَّاسِ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Do they think that they'll be just left alone once they say amanna, that yes, we've believed, and they will not be tested? Of course they're going to be tested. Of course they're going to be tested. The Quran is telling you and I that you will be tested. Do not expect a smooth ride. You will be tested. And it says, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَافِرِينَ. That we have certainly tested the people before you. What do you think? That you're so special just because you're living in Ireland in 2021 that you will not be tested? No, you're just like the other people. Everyone before you, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Everyone was tested before. And what was the purpose of being tested? Or what was the result? فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ. And Allah will certainly know the ones who are truthful and the ones who are كاذبين, the ones who lie. The ones who are truthful, meaning that their apparent reflects what's inside of them. They don't say one thing and act in another way. No, they say we believe in Imam Hussein. They say we cry for Imam Hussein. They say we'll give anything for Imam Hussein. And verily, when you see their life, it is like that. They're full of sacrifice. Their life is full of sacrifices for others, full of sacrifices for Islam. So know that there's a purpose that you were created. So this is Surah number 29, verse number 2. Another one of the verses that talks about this is in Surah Mulk, right? So chapter 67, Surah Mulk, chapter 67, verse number 2 again. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ. The one who created the death and the life for what, O Allah? لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ. To test you. أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. To see which one of you are the best in their actions. So if I'm expecting in my life that the purpose of that Allah created me is for me to have this smooth sailing, for me to be able to make enough money so I can have a good life, I can be comfortable, and that's it. Brothers and sisters, we've fallen off the path. There's no way that a person who has not been able to identify their purpose, there's absolutely no way that a person who hasn't been able to identify their purpose will ever be able to reach their purpose. There's absolutely no chance of that happening. Zero. So what that highlights for you and I is that we understand that it was the all-wise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created us. He does not create without a purpose. What is that purpose? Number one, in the verse that we have, number 51, 56, لَيَعْبُدُونَ. That for us to worship Him. Okay, what else should we expect along this life, Allah? That I will test you. In Surah 29, verse number 2. I will test you. I've tested those before you. In Surah number 67, Surah Mulk, verse number 2 again. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. To be able to see which one of you are the best in your actions. Right? So for us to be able to understand this. In one of the traditions that's narrated by a lot of ulama, a lot of our scholars, he says, كُنْتُ كَنْزًا مَخْفِيًّا. That I was a hidden treasure. فَأَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ أُعْرَفْ فَخَلَقْتُ الْخَلْقِ لِكَيْ أُعْرَفْ. Right, that I was this hidden treasure, but I wanted to be known. I wanted people to find out about me. That is why I created the creation, so I can be known. So another responsibility that highlights for me and you is to be able to get to that known, get to that knowledge, get to that ma'rifah. So if I'm someone who's living life without giving any importance, without giving any serious consideration to be able to learn about my God, to be able to learn who He is, to be able to learn what His attributes are, this is a sign of a person who's fallen off the path. Fallen off the path. right? The ma'rifah, the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of the Quran, the knowledge of what He expects from you and I is absolutely essential, brothers and sisters. Absolutely essential. Look at it this way. Say, for example, you have a math test or math exam that's coming up at the end of the month. And from now till the end of the month, you study all your other subjects. Is that going to help you in your math test, in your math exam? No, because you're misaligned. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what the test is about. You don't even know where you're supposed to be. You're not even in the right book. Similarly, if I'm in this world, I need to realize that the test in this world is going to be based on what's already been mentioned in the Quran. It's like an open book test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already told us what He's going to ask us. He's already told us, listen, there will be highs and lows. Listen, there is a shaitan. But don't ever forget. Ya ibadiya alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim. Remember, we talked about this verse, I believe we talked about it yesterday as well. Surah Zumar, if we didn't, then Surah Zumar, which is chapter 39, verse 53. 39, 53. Let me quickly just type these out in case. So we had 29:2, we had 67:2, and we have 39. يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم. Say to my servants who have transgressed, who have crossed the lines, لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. It's okay if you didn't realize so far. It's okay. It's okay if you cross some boundaries. It's okay. لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. Don't ever feel hopeless. Don't ever despair with regards to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is there for you, more loving than a mother. Always, unconditionally by your side, waiting for you to turn back to Him. The Quran says, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin, that Allah loves those people who come back to Him, who turn back to Him, who repent and turn towards Him. So it's okay if we haven't done that so far, but these are absolutely essentials, dear brothers and sisters, for us to understand that there is a purpose, for us to understand what that purpose is, for us to understand what the hurdles, some of the hurdles on the way to that purpose will be. And inshallah, what we're hoping to do is mentioning many of these along the way in our series, through the verses of the Quran, mentioning these, that sometimes we're looking for answers. We say, I don't know why I can't get close to Allah. I don't know why I can't. Like, these are questions that all of us ask. Or all of us, at least at some point in life, have thought of. I don't know why I can't concentrate in salat. Right? Isn't this a question? I don't know why I don't feel so connected to the Ahlul Bayt like I should. I don't know why I don't feel like crying when the Messiah are recited. I don't know why when I go for ziyarat, I just don't feel that connection. I don't know why, and so on and so forth. Right? The list is endless. These are questions that each and every single one of us has. These are issues that each and every single one of us deals with on a daily basis. And this is of the people who've actually, woken up a little and realized that there is a purpose. That's just the first step. The steps after that are much more challenging to be able to get over the hurdles. To be able, there's a funny story that they talk about where they say that there was this one scholar who was, and maybe you've heard it before, but there's this one scholar who was taking a nap, and in his sleep, in his dream, he sees the shaitan, right? Good old shaitan is there, and he sees the shaitan is really tired, really tired, and pulling these big, fat chains along over his shoulder with so much difficulty, pulling them back to his place. And the scholar asks him, he's like, Mr. Shaitan, you're so good at what you do. I don't know, I've never seen you break a sweat. You can usually get people, what is going on? What are you doing? What is all these chains? What's going on? And he's like, you know what? Today I had to go get one of these amazing people, amazing mu'mineen, amazing scholar, and I was trying to get them off the path. And this person had such a good understanding of the Quran. This person had such a good understanding of me that it took these big fat chains for me to be able to pull them off the path. And the scholar gets really excited. He's like, oh, wow. You know, I'm also a scholar. Maybe let me try to see what size chains he has in store for me. And he's like, oh, Mr. Shaitan, what about me? Well, what can you show me what size chains you have for me? And Shaitan just drops the chain and just starts laughing. And the scholar's like, what's going on? Why are you laughing, Mr. Shaitan? And he's like, my dear scholar, you are one of those people that, you know, I don't need a chain for you. I just whistle and you come wagging your tail behind me. I don't need to come after you. You're the one who's always after me. So I don't need to come work hard on you. So basically the moral of the story is there are people who have a good understanding. They understand, like the Quran says, that the shaitan is a clear enemy for you. فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًّا, the Quran says. Take him as an enemy. Take him as an enemy. Just having the knowledge of that shaitan is my enemy is not good enough. What does take him as an enemy entail? It means for me to understand that how does shaitan work? What are his tricks? What is he up to? Why does he not want me to go? But how will I know where to go? I also need to know where to go. I need to know what my purpose is. I need to know how to get to my purpose and a lot of other intricate details. If I don't have this information, God forbid, I be like one of those people that Shaitan is saying that all I need to is whistle and you come wagging your tail behind me. Right? So there's one side, there's this kind of a person. On the other side, in some of the traditions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Nabi Isa, Jesus, to Jesus, one of the best of his prophets, is he not? Yes, our holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the best of the prophets, the seal of the prophets. But Hazrat Isa is one of the top prophets, and he says in one of the traditions that one of the scholars writes in his books, he says, Ya Isa, O Isa, you know what I like? I like it when my servant tabassbasa ilayya. And the scholars explain this word. What does it mean? So he's talking, remember, he's talking to one of the best of his prophets. And he says, oh Isa, you know what I like? Your God, what I like it when you come to me. And the scholar explains this word tabassbasa as, you know, when you see like the dog is ready for the cookie and it's sitting in front of its master with its paws down on the floor, and it's like really, you know, in a very like submissive way, sitting down, paws out, tail wagging. This is how the scholar explains this. So this holy prophet of ours, Nabi Isa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him, this is what I want. I don't want you to go to shaitan wagging your tail. No, I want you to come to me. just the way that a loyal pet of of the master comes to their master. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you and I. He wants us to be able to recognize our master, recognize that we are servants. And you've heard that story about from the time of Imam Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam, right? When Imam Qadim was passing by someone's house and he heard the loud music, and basically the slave girl or the lady who worked at their house came out to put some trash or something outside, and Imam Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam asks the lady, whose house is this? Is this person a slave or is it a free man? And the slave girl is surprised. She's like, no, this is a free man. Of course, it's not a slave. This house with this this amazing house and the sound of music and this and that. And Imam Qadim, all he says is, yeah, I can tell it's a free man. The slave girl goes inside. Imam Qadim walks along. The slave girl goes inside, and the master asks, what took you so long? And she tells him the story that there was this noble person who was walking by, and he asked me this question. And the master's like, what did you tell him? And she's like, I told him, of course, it's a free man, it's not a slave. And the master of the house realizes what the point of Imam al-Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam was. And he runs out of his house without his shoes. Right? You've heard the story perhaps. But this is someone, right? They were off the path, but understanding the moral of the story over here is that we are not free men, we're slaves of a master. And our master is the kindest and the most merciful of masters. And he's told us, Ya ibadiya alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim, O my servants who've transgressed and crossed the bounds, don't worry, I'm here for you. La taqnatu min rahmatillah, don't lose hope, I'm here. Okay, so that's us coming back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the fact remains that yes, He is all merciful, yes, He loves us and all of that, but there's more to Him. For us to be able to have that foundational understanding, right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The only reason you and I were created to be able to worship Him. Some of the scholars have explained لِيَعْبُدُونَ, which means to worship, as لِيَعْرِفُونَ. For us to be able to have the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for us to be able to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason why they say that, those who say that, is how can you worship something that you don't understand? How can you love someone who you don't even know? Right? And this is those of you who are married, or you've heard this before, that when you meet this prospective brother or sister that you're going to marry, and the first day that you're married, and oh, I love you, that love is not as worthy as the love that comes 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later, because the love that comes later is based on understanding, is based on understanding the intricate attributes of this person, the reality of this person. You're closer to the reality of this person. That's why that ma'rifah, understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a responsibility upon us, In Dua Abu Hamza, which is one of the du'as that is highly recommended to recite in the holy month of Ramadan, Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam used to recite it, it's narrated that he used to recite it on a nightly basis, in the middle of the night, closer to the time of Sahar, closer to the time of Sahri or Suhoor, or whatever you call it. In this dua, Abu Hamza, he says, Ilahi, O Allah, bika araftuk, وأنت دللتني عليك ودعوتني إليك. O Allah, I understood you through you. Bika araftuk. Right? So ma'rifah is something that's important. This is a very important point that the Imam is highlighting over here for those of us who want to be able to gain that ma'rifah, for us to be able to, those who want to be able to gain that understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bika araftuk. It is through you that I got to know you, Allah. Wa anta dalaltani alayk. You're the one, oh Allah, who guided me towards yourself. Wa da'awtuni ilayk. And you're the one who called me towards yourself, oh Allah. One of the things that we can understand from this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way He's created us, He's put a fitra inside of us. Fitra, the Quran says, Fitrat Allah allati fatara an-nas alayha. Right, that there's a fitra that I've instilled within, that there's an innate nature that I've instilled within all humans. And within one of the aspects of that innate nature is it pulls us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has that that longing of worshiping an entity. Is that a longing of finding out about that entity? Yes, sometimes we lose track. Sometimes we lose the path. But over here, what he's talking about is bika araftuk. It is through you who I got to know you. And you're the one who guided me towards yourself. You know how in the Quran, and inshallah, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that in the upcoming sessions, that these signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the horizon, in the afaq, within us, in the anfus, right? These are all Quranic terminology, that there's signs over there. One of the examples that the Quran talks about is the bird that's flying in the sky, right? And the Quran asks the question, how do you think this bird is flying? Is it not through the power that we gave us that we keep it afloat in the air? And then the various verses that talk about the different signs and the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that anyone who has the intellect looks at these signs and realizes that Allah, this is ma khalaqta hadha batila, that you did not create this in vain. There's certainly a purpose, there's certainly a wise creator behind all this. In one of the verses of the Quran, it says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتُنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَأَنفُسِ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. That we will show them the signs on the horizons in the outside world and within them, حَتَّى, until يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ, until it is clear for them that He and He only is the real truth. He is the only true reality. See how much the Quran has within it, and how far sometimes we are from the purpose that the Quran is highlighting for us, the information that the Quran is giving to us, the responsibilities that the Quran is putting on our shoulders. And sometimes we're so naive that we sit here and we think that, oh, because I went through the Shahr Ramadan, I'm good for life. No, you're not good for life. Or because I went to the Majlis of Imam Hussein, I'm good for life. No, you're not good for life. Because I love Amir al-Mu'minin, I'm good for life. No, you're not good for life. I'm not good for life just because I have that. Because Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam himself says, مَنْ يُحِبُّنَا فَلْيَعْمَلْ بِعَمَلِنَا. Whoever claims to love us, then act in the way that we acted. فَلْيَعْمَلْ بِعَمَلِنَا. Act, follow our actions as well. So, concluding over here, that we have a responsibility. We were not created in vain. This is something that the Quran mentions as something that's absolutely obvious, because it's assuming that this is an individual who has that fitrah within them that is still alight, that has not been dimmed by the veils of distancing ourselves from Allah, by the veils of sinning, by the veils of ghafla, by the veils of inattentiveness. Right? So it's there. So that's one thing. There's a responsibility. There's a purpose we were created. What is that purpose? For us to get closer to Allah, for us to worship Allah. That's just the overall thing. But there's a lot of small segments in there that inshallah we'll talk more about. One of the essential things is knowledge. We need to understand Allah better. Bika araftuk, meaning that there's not only signs, that there's signs, there's contemplation that's required for us to be able to get to Allah. Yes, there is opening the book and reading the book as well. It is important for us to take those classes and read those books. Absolutely important, but not to lose focus, not to lose the forest for the trees, as they say. Right? So understanding that, as Imam Sadiq says, "Laysa al-ilmu bit-ta'allum," that knowledge is not through learning. And then he goes on and he talks about it, inshallah, we'll talk more about it maybe another day. He talks about it, it's a light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in the hearts of those who he wishes. So it's something beyond just learning. So that's that, and I'll inshallah end with this verse over here, Surah Hud, which is chapter 11, verse 119. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ, except the one who your Lord had mercy on, وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ, and this is the purpose that he created them, for them to be able to reach a point where they are engrossed in Allah's mercy. رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ, they reach a point where Allah is convinced and satisfied with them, and they are satisfied with Allah. That because of the efforts that they made, because of the ma'rifah they have, because of the knowledge that they have, because of the steps that they took towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they reach a point where they're engrossed in mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the purpose that you and I were created for. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to inshallah bless us during this holy month with all the essential tools that we need, at least an understanding of those tools, and inshallah before he takes us away from this world, that we reach a point where we're engrossed in that mercy that the verse of the Quran is talking about, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And this last verse, also I'll just send the reference quickly. So I'm done, Daniel, it's all you. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you so much, Aga, for a very eye-opening and informative lecture. And to conclude our lesson, our lecture, I'd like to end it on Dua Imam Samana.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم كن لوليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على محمد